Okay. Yeah. So earlier today, a few minutes ago, I finally got the GT Classic world record. What's interesting about this is it's not like it was super, super, super important to me to get world record when I set out to start this category, but I thought it would be cool. When I first started doing it, I had 4 out of 4 NMG, so I had any percent, 100% reverse boss order, and low percent ice world records. And I thought it would be cool if I could get GT Classic as well while I still had the other 4. That didn't end up happening because Oates was running low percent ice at GDQ, and so he was still running the category, and I knew he was going to improve it. And he did. He beat my low ice record by a couple seconds, I think. So I no longer have low ice. I still have the other 3 NMG, which is pretty cool. But as soon as Oates took his run, I was like, okay, like that's okay. Like I'm just gonna keep doing GT Classic, and if I get record, then cool, and if not, that's fine too. The thing that has been kind of hard about running this category is there's been a lot of things going on in my life that have made it hard to put as much time as I would have liked to into practice and grinding runs and blah blah blah. If you don't regularly watch my content, and the last time that you saw me post something was, for example, my low ice world record, you probably notice I've lost some weight. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything, but like that's been a focus of mine the past few months, is trying to get more healthy. Mainly my focus on that has been so that I can like better play with my kids and stuff. But that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. So that took away from practicing and grinding runs in GT Classic. There's been some other like family stuff that I've been dealing with that has taken away time and energy. Work has been really stressful. There's been a lot of stuff, and so that made this grind more difficult than I was expecting. When I started the category, the record was a 32:16 by Behemoth, which he got that run a couple years ago, and I don't remember exactly where my PB was at, but it was somewhere in the 32s, like 32 3x or 32 4x, or maybe it was my 32 like 20 or whatever it was. Man, I don't even remember what my PB before was, but Zost ended up getting world record in this category. 32:33. Okay. Zost ended up getting world record in this category. I don't know. I want to say like a month ago. It was a couple weeks before my PB. And he got a 32:15. And then I got a really, really sick run. That was on amazing pace. And then the back half of the run ended up being really sloppy. And I just lost a bunch of time. And the run ended up being a 32:15 as well. And people were like, oh, you tied Zost. Congratulations, tied world record. But like, I don't really consider that a thing anymore unless it's tied to the frame. And my run was 3 frames slower than Zost. And I was like, man, like it would have been cool to just like clutch that out and be done. But I continued, and I had a bunch of really good paces over the past few weeks. Because my 32:15 was 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago today. I even had a run that was on pace for like a low 32.0x, and then I missed baby skip. Like, it was just, there's just a lot. There was a lot of stuff that happened. I had one run where I messed up the microwave on Dragon of all things. Like, there were a lot of chances, and a lot of me just throwing it and messing up. And every time that would happen, I would get more and more annoyed. And let me tell you, this game is really hard to play when you're feeling annoyed or angry or sad or tired or any of those things. And so I've been working really hard to like have a good positive mindset. and it's just been difficult. So I'm glad that I clutched this out today. We're gonna watch this run. I'm just gonna talk about how the run is while it's going. I might pause a few times just to explain like why things would be frustrating or why things are so volatile or things like that. Because as opposed to something like an any percent run, which does have a lot of nuance to it, but there's also a lot of things that are really straightforward, like, oh, you obviously lost time there because of X. There's a lot of things in the GT Classic run that you don't really see the time loss unless you've started running it or you have it explained. So I'm going to do my best to explain the run as we're going through it. And I hope that that makes for good content. But so we'll start it here. Just a little background. So I actually had a run like an hour or two before this one that was also on pace for world record, and I messed up baby skip. And so I was trying really hard to remain positive, but it was getting harder and harder as the day was going on. I also switched the audio track on this so that I'm not going to have to talk over myself. So you can see me over here on the left side. Like I'm moving and talking and stuff. You can't hear it because I just have that muted. But you guys should be able to hear game audio. So if you can't for whatever reason, let me know. You should be able to hear it on both Twitch and YouTube. But yeah, I had quite a few really sick early games today, like really sick series paces and a couple really good bombs paces and stuff like that. So like, okay, so like that's a good first haul. It makes it easier to keep resetting and doing another run and doing another run and doing another run when you keep getting pretty good paces. But again, the thing about this category is just, even if you have a really good pace at bombs, a lot of the time you're going to lose it by the time you get to power bombs or Crade or lava dive or whatever. Like actually getting into the meat of the run, which is where, you do the GT code, actually getting a good pace to that point in the run is really annoyingly difficult. And it's not even like the execution side of it is difficult, but there's a lot of RNG that determines how fast you can go too. Also, I guess I should explain, just in case you happen to be watching this and you don't know what GT Classic is. So in the game, there is, the developers left a debug code with Golden Chorizo's code, where if you're holding A, B, X, and Y when you enter Golden Chorizo's room, while Golden Chorizo is alive, the game will give you a bunch of equipment. It gives you 7 energy tanks. I think it's 7 energy tanks. All of the movement upgrades except for Screw Attack, which Screw Attack is in the very next room. And then 100 missiles, 20 supers, 20 power bombs, grapple beam, and X-ray. So basically, gives you a bunch of stuff. So in this category, the goal is get to Golden Chorizo's room, execute the GT code, finish the game. Yeah, it gives you reserve tanks as well. Finish the game from there the classic way. That's why it's called GT Classic. And classic just means defeat the main bosses, go to Turian, kill Mother Brain, escape the planet. Okay. The reason there's a classic differentiator is because I think by the time this code was discovered, there were already glitched categories that didn't require killing the bosses and blah, blah, blah. And so they decided to name this GT Classic rather than have it replace any percent, because it uses what is essentially a cheat code, a debug code. They decided to make it its own category. So that's what GT Classic is. Now, in order to maximize going fast in GT Classic, since we're going to get a bunch of equipment for free the best way to maximize going fast is to skip as much stuff as you possibly can on the way to GT code. Over the years, what that looks like has changed a lot. So, you know, people used to grab more energy tanks or grab more equipment in order to get to Golden Chorizo, because obviously getting into lower Norfair can be pretty precarious in and of itself. But as the category has gotten more and more and more optimized, more and more equipment has been dropped. So I'm going to point out when we skip things that would otherwise make this first part of the run much easier. And I'll kind of explain the risk reward. So far up to this point in the run, everything has looked pretty normal. It's very standard early game. The only early game that I can think of that you're going to see in a main category that is different than this is in reverse boss order. So obviously nothing out of the ordinary so far. That's going to remain true for the next 3 minutes or so. So, yeah. Why make the run easier when you can make the run faster? For enjoyment. Yeah, I mean, I had that same kind of a mindset a long time ago where I was like, why would I do the easy thing if it's slower? And literally it just comes down to enjoyment. This is a category where you really can't make compromises if you're pushing for world record. So we do grab this energy tank. This is not technically required to get into lower Norfair, but it's slower to skip it. So we grab that. Continue on. I did this run, let's see. It's currently 3:40 p.m. and this run started at 2:20 p.m. So it was like an hour ago. All right, so we're coming down into Green Brinstar. My early game has been really struggling lately. I can't really quantify why other than just to say, you know, like I said a few minutes ago, I haven't had very much time to actually sink into practice. So most of my early game practice has just been in runs, and let me tell you, like, it's important not to over practice early game, but you still need to practice it sometimes. Relying on your early game being in shape just by doing runs over and over can lead to a lot of frustration. So that's one of the reasons that I've been kind of struggling here. Okay, so right here, this is important. So notice that I have 2 missiles here. All the way back at early supers. When we do early supers, I'm already keeping track of the drops that I'm getting. I want at least 1 missile drop between early supers and Green Hills. And I'll explain more on that in a little bit. But the waiver at early supers, what it drops matters a lot. And this Rayo right here, what it drops also matters a lot. So it gave us a missile. So that's a positive. What we want is either 4 missiles here or 2 missiles and full energy. If we have 0 missiles here, that's really bad. And if we have like 2 missiles but not full energy, that can be kind of bad too. The energy matters a lot because of just going fast on the way to Crade and coming back. And there's some more to that as well. So I'll explain that as we keep going through here. But okay, so you notice I just skipped Charge Beam. That is way more annoying than it sounds. Charge Beam is such a huge quality of life improvement in Super Metroid that you don't even realize until you don't have it. Like, it's actually crazy. So this next room here is done differently in this category than it is in any other category because we don't have Charge Beam, for example. So I try to do a manip here where we do a mock ball, and then depending on whether this hopper jumps high or low, I unmorph in a different spot to try and manipulate the next hopper to do a high jump so that we don't take extra damage from it, because again, energy conservation is really important in this category. This hopper did a low hop here. So I tried to do an unmorph in the correct spot, but I think I messed that up. Okay, yeah, I did. So what I really should have done there is I should have selected a missile and shot this hopper rather than taking the damage from it, but I didn't do that. So that's kind of a mistake that I made. Ideally, I would have just done the manipulation correctly and avoided the hopper altogether, but I screwed that up. So because I took that extra damage, I decided not to do the deboost off the bug right here, which ends up losing us time. We open the gate. I don't want to take more damage from this hopper. We don't have iframes from the previous deboost, and I don't want to use any of my missiles to kill this hopper. So we have to go slow here, and we have to kill it with 3 P shots. So already we're kind of losing time here. So I pick up the missile from that. Because I got a missile, I know that I can use extra missiles in this room to kind of gain some time back. Normally, we would kill these cack attacks with P shots, but because I have extra missiles, I go ahead and use missiles on them. So we save time there, and I save a little more time here, and now we're like back in sync with the PB. So like already you can see like there's a lot of volatility to what kind of drops you get determines how fast you can go in this category in the early game. There's a few different ways that you can handle this next room, which is called Hellway. I actually jumped too early here, so I almost fell into this Vile Plume, which would have been GG right there. Ideally, I wanted to farm one of these little bug guys, they're called Zilas, to try and get some energy back because our energy is already low, and as I already mentioned, the energy conservation is really important. But because I screwed up entering this room, I wasn't able to farm them. We ended up just wasting a bunch of time and missiles, and we're low on energy, and I'm already like really annoyed. So if you look at my face, like I'm already just like, dude, screw this, man. So 8:10 on this powerbomb isn't the worst pace. My best pace ever was an 8:04. So we're about 6 seconds behind really, really good pace. But honestly, I'm more concerned about my energy than I am about my pace here. Little mistake there. Did the deboost wrong. For a while, I was farming these bugs to try and get some missile or energy back, but that ended up not being a good thing, so I stopped doing that. I think I screw up here too. So this is really annoying. Screes have really bad drop tables. Honestly, I would love to get pretty much anything from these screes, but oftentimes they drop nothing. The other thing is the optimal deboost here is really hard. Like, it's not the hardest thing ever, but you want to get a deboost that lands Samus in the door before activating it. That will allow you to shoot the Kakadak in the next room with a P shot early so that you can get through faster. But I messed that up. You saw the P shot came out. So that makes this room a little slower. It's not that much slower, but it is a little slower. But yeah, our energy is really low here. Ideally, you want to have like 100 here. So 71's pretty bad. Also, entering this door, ideally you want to have either 4 missiles or 2 missiles and 2 supers. We only have 2 and 1, which means I'm definitely going to have to either take a risk or slow down here. I do farm this Zila. That's just my main strat in hopes that it will give me either a big energy or an extra missile or an extra super. That time it gave me an extra missile, so that's helpful. Go a little slow there because we don't have enough ammo to go faster. All right, so we do a Kago Mach Ball here on this pirate. The reason we do that, there's 2 reasons. One, we need to kill all of the enemies in this room to unlock the door. So we can't just skip these pirates here. We also can't hurt them with P shots. We don't have charge beam. You can hurt them with bombs, but that's really slow. Or you can kill them with missiles, but we need our missiles for Crade. So really the only option that we have here is to kill them with a power bomb. So a Kago Mock Ball here makes sense because we have to lay a power bomb anyway, and it also just happens to be the fastest way to do it. But that Kago is actually pretty difficult to do. So I lay the power bomb on those pirates, and then we unmorph Kago that spike right there, and we kill Mini Crade with 2 missiles. Okay. So now we have just enough ammo to do the Crade quick kill. Notice I don't do the deboost on those spikes because, again, energy conservation. So we're going slower, specifically just to conserve our energy because it's that important in this run. Crade gave us a bunch of lag, which is, you can mitigate it by taking damage, but again, we don't want to take damage because energy conservation. So Crade drops here are really important. Leaving Crade's room, you want to have at least 100 energy. Ideally, you want to have like 140, 150. Or you want to have full supers and full missiles so that you can farm Mini Crade and get a health bomb from Mini Crade and get a bunch of energy back that way. Neither of those things almost ever happen. Okay. So we see what Crade drops us. He dropped us a couple supers, so that's good. He dropped us a couple missiles, so that's good. But the energy is just abysmal. So again, if you look at me, you can see I'm like, dude, what am I supposed to do here, man? We also don't have full supers. We have 4 supers. So we can't get a health bomb from Mini Crade. So I think I decided to farm this red bug, hoping that it would give me a super, but it gives me a small energy. So we're not getting energy from Mini Crade. And I don't want to use my missiles on these pirates because I would rather have the energy. And when you have full missiles, an enemy, the drop table for the missiles is supposed to convert over into the other tier 1 drops, so you're more likely to get energy. So I decided to use a power bomb on these pirates, which is also slower. And we get 1 small energy drop out of the 3. Okay. So I'm just getting freaking scammed. Like the scammiest scams ever. So again, I decide, okay, I still need more energy, so I don't want to use missiles. So I decide to kill these Zilas with P-shots, and we get 2 more small energies. So the scams are just stacking on top of the scams over and over and over. And I think I actually made a comment here that's like, this run's pretty much dead already. Because it was, honestly. Okay. So I try to farm this guy to try and get more energy. He also drops me a small energy. This strat is pretty cool. I think I actually got it. Yeah, so that's up and 2 with bombs. That's way harder than it looks. Usually, most people do 3 bombs at least to get up there. You can't just jump up because we skipped high jump, which I failed to mention. So the easier... the easier route in this category would be to go down once you get into norfair and grab high jump and or an extra energy tank. You could also, if you're planning on skipping high jump, you could skip the extra energy tank, I think, but it's kind of risky. Or no, sorry, I'm explaining this wrong. So now I just look like an idiot. If you're grabbing high jump, you could skip the extra energy tank, but it might be kind of risky. Or you could skip high jump, but grab the extra energy tank, leaving Crade. But both of those are slower than just skipping both. So we're skipping both. And that's really aggressive, but it's kind of necessary for world record. So we go through these rooms. This room is really annoying because this first like hopper guy, they're called squeeps. Whether you take damage from it or not is RNG, and we really don't want to because it does a lot of damage. But we took damage, so now our energy is even lower. Even lower, okay? And the reason that all of this matters is because in order to survive the entry into Lower Norfair, we have to have basically full energy. So I farm this guy hoping I'll get energy. I end up getting a super. So then I decided to use the super on this first guy to try and keep my missiles full so that I'm more likely to get energy. Still don't get energy. And then we have to farm these flames from these Magdalites, okay? These flames are really, really good for farming resources, but they're also really finicky. Sometimes you'll get a bunch of big energies and you're good to go in just one cycle. Sometimes you'll get basically nothing but smalls and you have to do 2 cycles or 3 cycles or whatever. And at world record level, it's really hard to remain on a competitive pace if you have to farm more than 1 cycle of flames here. So first of all, we're getting a bunch of smalls. So we have to do 2 cycles. And then also I did that kind of in a slow way. And we're still not full. We're at 95. So I can do this dive, but it's sketchy. Okay. So talking about this lava dive. Lava dive in this particular route is harder, in my opinion, than any other lava dive, including the YOLO one that people do in max percent GT code. There's a lot of people that disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I find this way harder. So first of all, you have to kind of normalize your jump into this room. There's a few different ways to do that. I like what I do here, so I did a down back to kill the bottom guy right here. And you probably can't really see that, but that reduces lag. And then you lay the power bomb. And what I do is I turn left once the power bomb reaches Samus. And then I try to time a jump through the door. And depending on what Samus's sprite looks like entering the door, I know whether I have a setup that will work or not. So I knew that this setup was going to work. So the next thing you do is you do a bounce ball all the way down here. You need to unmorph and do a quick little jump onto this next ledge here. Okay. And then what you need to do is avoid this flame and do a Keigo inside of this Namihe. Okay. Now, people were asking about this constantly the entire time that I was running this category. They're like, why do you Keigo into the Namihe? I don't get it. So if you look at my energy here, we have 24. And once we Keigo into the Namihe, we're going to get iframes, but we're not going to take damage from Keigoing into the Namihe. Okay. Our energy is going to continue dropping because we're taking lava damage, but we're not going to take damage from the Namihe itself. These flames do 50 damage. So if we hit a flame, we're going to die because we don't have the extra energy tank to absorb that hit. Okay. So we Keigo into the Namihe and we get iframes. So Samus is flashing now. And then what we need to do is we need to time jumping out of the Namihe in a way that Samus will reset her iframes. Basically, the iframes will run out, but she's still inside of the Namihe, so she'll get more iframes. And we have to do that perfectly. It's not frame perfect, but it's a pretty tight window. And the way that that works is we have to do a turnaround as we're jumping to activate uninterruptible frames so that Samus will continue rising when she gets those iframes and then land on top of the Namihe. Okay. So this is a setup that Zost came up with that I stole kinda. I think I do it a little bit differently than he does, but you shoot the wall 3 times and then you jump out. There's still a little bit of manual timing to it, but that's how it works. So we shoot the wall 3 times, then we jump and turn. So see how we're turning here. And then as we're exiting the Namihe, we'll get more iframes and then land on the Namihe. Okay. So we got more iframes. Then from here, we need to do a spin jump because we need to use those iframes to wall jump off the spikes without taking damage from the spikes. 1, 2, 3. So we get the third wall jump just before the iframes run out. It has to be high enough or you're not going to be able to jump over where we need to go. You also need to watch out for this flame because it can hit you if you're still holding jump. There's kind of a weird mechanic where out of a wall jump, Samus's hitbox is taller until you release the jump button. Okay. So we dodge the flame, and then what we need to do is wall jump off here, and then do a second wall jump to wait for this flame to get out of the way so we can get up. Okay. So that's that lava dive. Notice we have 6 energy left, so there's no margin for error. I could have done this strat with 5 less energy than what I ended up entering with. So I had 95, so I could have done this with 91 or 90, I think. And other than that, I would have died there. Okay, so that lava dive is really difficult, and it has been giving me a lot of grief lately. So I was pretty relieved to get past there. The next thing coming up is the green gate glitch. So GGG is something that's really hard for a lot of people. It's not something that I've ever really struggled with. I'm not trying to brag when I say that. It's just, it isn't something that is super awful for me. So up here in the left, you see GGG killed 11 out of 71 paces. That's actually 72. So I think this run was 73. But so it's killed like 1 out of 7 runs for me, which isn't awful. But green gate glitch basically involves shooting a super missile either frame perfectly or within a 2-frame window as Samus is approaching this gate here to clip the super missile through the gate to hit the switch. So we get that. I actually thought that I messed it up, but we ended up getting through. And since we didn't fall in the acid and die, all we have to do now is execute GT code and the run officially starts. So you can see over here on the input viewer on the right-hand side, I'm holding all 4 face buttons, A, B, X, and Y. That code routine runs right around this spot here as the door is scrolling past. And now you can see we have gravity suit, we have 7 energy tanks. It says 0, 0 because that's just how it's coded. And that is correct. We have 700 energy exactly. That's actually important. And then we have 100 missiles, 20 super missiles, 20 power bombs. You'll also notice there's no grapple beam or X-ray, but we do have those items. They just, the HUD routine doesn't update to show that you have them. So we have to pause here because when GT code activates, it gives you all of the beams, all of the suits, all of these except for screw attack, which is in the next room, and then all the boots. But if you shoot when you have both Spazer and Plasma equipped, it's going to crash the game under most circumstances. So we have to pause to come and unequip Spazer. Okay? So we unequip Spazer. We kill GT. It will work through either door, yes. It's just that GT has to be alive when you do it. We do a normalized setup here to exit the room just as the door unlocks. And then we grab screw attack. Okay. So I am already plus 9.4 seconds on this run because we had to do the double farm on the Magdalites. So again, this run is pretty much dead at this point. Best possible time is a 31:59. And so that means that I have about 16, 17 minutes of run left. 18 minutes. I have about 18 minutes of run left. And I can make a total of, if I get perfect RNG, I can make a total of 15 seconds of mistakes compared to my best segments, which is really not very much. So I've already pretty much given up on this run at this point. I know that it's still possible, but a lot of things have to go exactly right for this to work out. Now, okay, so already I missed a space jump. So we lost like half a second there, or a second or something. As I already mentioned, and as it says on the bottom of the screen here, I threw so many paces from this point of the run until the end of the run over the past 3 weeks. I would do a boss wrong, or I would do a room terribly wrong and lose a bunch of time, or I would get scammed by RNG, or I would be too nervous and I would mess up a really important strat, or, you know, blah, 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 blah. This strat's kind of hard to do optimally. That ended up working, so that's good. But yeah, like any one of these things could like go horribly wrong and then the run is just dead. Like if I failed to clip through those elevators, we would have lost 2 or 3 seconds there, and that would have been really bad. If I messed up the strat on the pirates, that would have lost, 3 to 5 seconds, and that would have been really bad. If I messed up that spring ball, that would have lost 2 to 4 seconds, and that would have been really bad. So like, again, I've already kind of accepted that this run is pretty much dead at this point, because it's really hard to play perfectly for half of the run, okay? Ridley is also a huge jerk and will sometimes just not cooperate. Sometimes he just gives you really bad patterns. He did not give me the type of pattern that I wanted here, and I end up kind of winging it and using 3 supers during a pogo, which I would almost never do. Now, the thing about that is I knew that if Ridley swooped after this pogo pattern, it was just over, okay? He did happen to be really nice, and he went into an extra pogo, so I was able to just finish the fight there, okay? So I got really lucky there, to be clear. Like, Ridley just happened to give us the exact behavior that we needed for that to work out. So that was a 38 second room. My best Ridley room ever is a 34, a 34. And that was in practice. I think my best in a run is a 35 or a 36. So that was really good. We lost 1 second compared to our best possible time. So far we're essentially playing as good as we need to, but again, that was just 1 segment. So I've messed up this segment a lot. So, again, I'm just kind of like bracing myself for messing something up in a major way and the run being dead. This room is really annoying because the hoppers at the top can give you different patterns depending on how you advance the room. And sometimes
I knew you'd get it. Congrats.
Thank you, Ref. Sometimes they're just not in a spot where you can do the deboost correctly, and that can be really annoying. So, Ref, thank you for the 500 bits. I really, really appreciate that. Okay, the other thing is the movement through these rooms is still pretty difficult, and like going as fast as I can is not always the safest thing, but I also don't really have enough time wiggle room to not try to go as fast as I can. So like that's nerve-wracking because like I know like if I mess up I'm gonna lose half a second here or half a second there or whatever, and that's again going to creep us closer and closer to not being able to clutch this out. Okay, now again I just want to point out there's 14 minutes left in the run, and the best possible time right now is a 32 flat. Okay. Considering the end time, which spoilers at the top of the screen, 32:10, that's actually insane. I hadn't really comprehended that until just now. That's actually pretty insane. Hey Sassy, thank you. Love you. Shout outs to Sassy, she's awesome. She's my wife for anybody who doesn't know. Okay. So the lower Norfair escape segment was pretty dang clean. Key Hunter Stairs was a little slow. There were a couple other little hiccups, but overall it was really clean. Meridia is also really, really volatile, just because the movement in it is pretty difficult. So, maintaining performance through this part of the run is really difficult. This is a really cool strat. So we use space jumps to keep momentum. Unfortunately, I landed on that ledge there, so we lost like half a second there. But that's a really cool looking strat. Because every other category you just do shine sparks there, except for low percent you do a gravity jump. So it's really cool that we already have space jump, which normally you would have to get from Dragon. Oh, that's a bad mistake too. I forgot about that. Okay, so we've lost like a second and a half on this segment compared to like best so far. Actually more like 2 seconds. Now, okay. I wish I could easily show that again. I don't think I really can. You want to frame perfectly activate X-ray while the plasma beam is over the hole that Batoon comes out of. Because if you do that, what will happen is Batoon's speed value will update with the damage that it takes, and it will progress through the room faster so that you can kill it faster. So I did that, so that's good. Got out of the room at 12:12, which is pretty much best case scenario there. I was a little nervous about this full halfie. Full halfie isn't something that I've struggled with in a long time, but I have had it kill, you know, pivotal runs many times in the past. So I was a little nervous, but we ended up getting through there. Grabbed the super with a grapple beam. That's actually important. We need to conserve supers and energy as much as we can throughout pretty much this whole run. So getting a super or a big energy there is really helpful. Okay, now I didn't explain this on Batoon, so I'll explain it here. Plasma beam has a property where it will pierce through enemies, and X-ray, when you activate X-ray, it freezes the beam in place, but it does not freeze enemy routines. So we're gonna shoot Dragon here with the plasma beam, and then we use X-ray to pause the plasma beam inside of Dragon because it has the piercing damage property. People sometimes ask, why don't you do that with Ridley? Ridley is not vulnerable to piercing damage. Thank you for the 600 bits. Mother Brain is also not vulnerable to piercing damage. GT is vulnerable to piercing damage. That's something else. There's another reason that doesn't work. But basically, Dragon and Batoon and Fantoon, you get plasma beam, you microwave with the X-ray while the plasma beam is doing damage with them. And during the X-ray, their iframes run out because they have really, really short iframes. It's like, I think it's like one frame of iframes or something. So what we do is we repeatedly hit Dragon with the same plasma beam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Dragon's dead. That is a spike suit that is really hard to do because we have Spring Ball, so we have to unmorph with up. But we did end up getting that. If you miss that spike suit, you automatically lose like 3 seconds. So it's really good that I got that there. Now, again, if you look at my best possible time now, you can see we went from 32 flat to 32:01. So if I hadn't made the couple seconds worth of mistakes that I did in the previous segment, that would have been a gold. So again, I'm playing very, very well right now. This strat is pretty difficult, so you need to position Samus coming through this door so that when she morphs over this corner, it will kind of like bend her down over the corner with the speed echoes. And then she will break through these 2 blocks here, which are speed blocks. Then what you need to do is unmorph immediately and shoot twice, because you need to break these blocks so that she can run through. Break these blocks so that she can run through. These are speed blocks, so we have to make sure that we get speed echoes again. And we also want to make sure that we open this door here. So I did that, got through, kind of did that in a weird way, but it didn't end up being that much slower. And then I actually quit going for the weave jump here, just because even though I can get the weave jump pretty consistently, in this category it was a little harder for whatever reason, and plasma beam makes it really hard to open the door for me. So I do a downturn up through this here, and then we open this door and run through. You need to do some, they're not super precise, but you want to precisely space your space jumps there, so you don't fall all the way down, and so you can open the door optimally and land on the thing and get through. We skip those bugs because farming them is slow. And then ideally you want to do a spring ball out of this tunnel. I'm pretty sure it's frame perfect, but I get it quite often. Unfortunately, I messed that up. Worse than that, though, is I missed this ledge grab. So we fall, and that's a good probably half second or more of a mistake right there, not even factoring in that I missed the spring ball. So that hurts compared to our gold quite a bit. And then from here, we're heading over to Fantoon. That strat's a little weird. I'm not going to get too much into it, but if you do it wrong, the key hunter won't be in the right spot and you'll lose some time. So that went well. This strat, if you mistime your space jumps, you can bonk or fall in the water, both of which are very slow. I did that in my 3215, I think. Maybe the run before. So yeah, anyway, kind of messed up this room a little bit. So we're already kind of losing time. And then the other thing is, probably the most annoying thing about this category is we do Fantoon last. And I messed that up too. The swing on Fantoon is about 10 seconds. The fight itself is pretty easy because you just microwave with plasma beam, but you're literally at the mercy of RNG. Like, sometimes you just lose 10 seconds here for no reason. Thankfully, he gave us a fast, so that kind of like clutched this out, kind of carried the run. So I was actually pretty annoyed. It was like, of course he gave us a fast on this pace instead of one of the other great paces that I've had to this point in the run where he gave us a slow. But because he gave us a fast, now we're a couple seconds ahead. So really, like I said, so RunGG just posted in chat, Zeni gained 12 seconds compared to his PB. That pattern absolutely carried this run, 100%. If we got a slow, it would have been, 10 seconds slower than that, and best possible time would now be a 32:12. Like, it's just how it is. It's really important not to mess up these space jumps here, because you'll lose a ton of time if you do. It's also really important not to accidentally grab that missile pack there, which I have done. It's really important not to bonk this key hunter here, which I have done. And it's really important not to accidentally pump off of one of these slopes, which I have done. And it's also really important not to bonk that door, which I have done. It's also pretty important not to bonk that mound, or that wall, or that door, which I have done. And that strat's pretty hard too. So what's interesting is none of that is really that difficult, but if you do happen to make a mistake in any one of those spots, you lose a lot of time and it's really annoying. So, okay. So best possible time is now a 32:03. I was unaware of this. I knew that I was ahead, but I actually hid everything on my screen at this point because I didn't want to psych myself out. I knew I was minus 1.5 or 1.6 or something, but I didn't know what my best possible time was. So I hid everything on my screen. Chat was hidden, splits were hidden. What's funny is just today, I added my PB video to, I have like a prompter monitor over here, the camera. I added my PB video to it, and I actually even added a trigger on my Stream Deck to hide it, like I can do with my chat and other stuff, but I changed the source after I did that, and so when I pushed the thing to hide it, the PB video was still playing on my on my prompter, and it was actually really distracting. So I'll point it out. So I noticed it here, and I'm like focusing really hard on trying to watch the screen, but my brain is like, no, but that's there and I need to fix it. I'm like, no, I need to watch my freaking TV. Okay, so I maintain composure all the way up until here, and then this happens. And it's because I was distracted by the frickin' thing that I put on my prompter. So I'm prepping for baby skip here, and I'm trying so hard not to get distracted by the PB video. And I can see that I'm still a couple seconds ahead, and I'm trying so hard not to get distracted. I like almost forgot to crouch there, which is actually really important. Anyway, okay, so this baby skip is really finicky. You can be consistent with it, but it's really precise. So I'll try and break this down in a not too overwhelming way. First, you want to start running just as the baby's claws start to like collapse in, okay? Then you want Samus to jump as late as possible before this dome, and you also want to do an arm pump on your way. That makes a big difference. So first of all, I get the correct jump, okay? That's only the first part of the strat. The next thing you need to do is make sure that you don't space jump too early, or what will happen is you'll bonk this scree. You also need to make sure that you don't space jump too late, or what will happen is the baby's orbiting behavior will change and it will grab you. The other thing is you need to make sure that you shoot late enough, because if you shoot too early, it's not going to break the moss that you need to get through. And if you shoot too late, it messes with Samus's hitbox, which messes with the baby's orbiting behavior, and the baby will grab you. So you have to shoot at the right time. Then you have to aim down, and you have to make sure that you morph at the correct time, because if you don't morph at the correct time, the baby will grab you. And then you also have to make sure that you spring ball at the correct time, because if you don't, what will happen is you're going to hit this little dust guy here, and that will screw you over, or the baby will just grab you. So that was actually really weird, the way that that happened, but it did work, thankfully. So now I'm paying attention to my supers, and I'm seeing that I'm a little low, but not the lowest. I'm trying really hard not to mess up this moonfall, which I keep on messing up lately. And then this room is really stressful because I mentioned this earlier, so I'm going to explain this now. Notice that we have full energy. It's actually really important that we keep full energy, because if we don't, during the Mother Brain fight, we're going to have to pause and refill with our reserves, which loses 3 or 4 seconds minimum. And the reason we have to do that is for stand-up glitch. So because we need to maintain full energy, we can't do the normal Zeb skip here. So what we need to do instead is super this first Zebetite, get it out of the way. Then we have to make sure we don't take damage from this Rinka or this Rinka. And we have to hope and pray that this turret, right up here to the left of the Rinka, doesn't decide to shoot us on our way to the left. Okay, so it decided to shoot down, so we're okay there. Then what we need to do is we need to freeze the Rinka that's going to spawn here before the acid touches Samus. And then we need to jump and land on the Rinka from the correct height so that we get iframes and then can morph through that Zeb. Then we need to not drop any of our space jumps and make sure that we morph at the correct time to get through this hole. Then what we need to do is time our missiles correctly so that we can break the glass appropriately. Make sure we don't get hit by any of those Rinkas. And again, hope and pray that neither of these turrets shoot in a way that messes us up or damages us. Okay, so we made it through all that. So now I have to finish this fight without taking damage so that I don't have to pause to use the reserves. And the TLDR on Mother Brain is, in a fight like this, when she decides to use the ketchup beam, which is the red beam, is really important, because Mother Brain's AI will not advance for, I think it's 4 seconds after a ketchup beam is fired. And so even if you get her down to 0 energy or 0 health left, she's not going to advance to the rainbow beam phase for a period of time. Like, okay, if she has decided to catch up, which she does 99% of the time, the rainbow beam phase will not advance until at least 4 seconds after the previous catch-up. Like, there's just a cooldown where she won't do anything after firing a catch-up. So it's 20 shots. Ideally, we want catch-up on shot 16. Is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She meatballed 11. I undercharged on 11, so now we're still at 11. 11, 12, 13, meatball, 14, 15. Okay, she's got to catch up here. We're going to do 16, and then she's going to catch up. She decides to step forward. That can be bad, because if she catch-ups during a back step, she gives you a bad cutscene pattern. But she immediately backstepped, so we're good. She's going to catch up now. We've done 16 shots. That's when she can start catch-upping. She's going to catch up now. No, she decides to sit down and spit out a meatball instead. That is the literal worst thing that can happen. I'm not kidding you. That is the worst possible thing that Mother Brain can do in that situation, because she can't catch up until that meatball disappears. You can bomb the meatball to remove it, okay? But if she has already decided to catch up before the meatball is gone, it's not going to really help anything, okay? So we're on shot like 18 or something, 19, 20. I bomb the meatball, and then she catch-ups. So I'm like freaking out, because that's the worst possible thing she could have done. So we lost a good like 5 seconds there, 4 or 5 minimum. Now, it's funny because my PB video was still up on my prompter, which is actually kind of a good thing, because if it hadn't been, I wouldn't have known if we were still ahead, but I could see that we were still ahead, and so I didn't panic too much. But my hand was really, really shaking here, because I knew that if I messed this up, the run was over. I knew we still had a chance, but I had to play perfectly for the rest of the run or it was over. And so thank you, NFETs, for the gift subs. So this is a manipulation that we call two cries. Basically, when you do stand-up glitch, which we do in this category if we have the energy, which I forgot to explain the details, but in order to do stand-up glitch, you have to have a minimum of 700 energy, and that's the maximum energy that we have in this category. So Mother Brain will advance the cutscene here faster or slower depending on what position her head is in, and you can actually manipulate that by doing different things for better or worse. And so there's a manipulation that we found. Nobody Nada basically scripted it out. He wrote a script to figure it out, and then Professor School and I helped him kind of science it out, lab it out, and Behemoth came up with this setup actually, which is really cool. But basically, we need to jump at the correct time, and then we need to morph and bounce and then unmorph at the correct time. Best case scenario, it's like a 6-frame window. There's an edge case where it's like 9 frames, but there's like scam frames and weird stuff. So we just call it a 6-frame window. Now, my thumb is shaking so bad, and to the point that Samus literally turned around and stood up because my thumb was like shaking, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna screw this up, and I was so scared. So what you have to do is you need to do a jump. It's called a cripple jump, where if Samus is crouched and doing an angle and you jump, she actually jumps lower. So we need to do a cripple jump just as Mother Brain's chin passes this pipe here in the background. So it's passing, we jump, you need to immediately aim down and then morph after Samus is over Mother Brain's head. No, sorry. You morph after she's below. My bad. So you bonk the ceiling while she's aiming down, then she drops. Once you're below, you morph, you bounce, you hit the ceiling again, and then you need to unmorph. And again, best case scenario, it's like a 6-frame window. So you unmorph, and then if her neck does this thing where it like folds, you know you got it. So her neck folds, Okay, we're good. So we call it 2 cries because the baby or mother brain, one of them is making that wow, wow noise. It will do that twice, and then the baby will detach and it stops. That is the fastest human way to do it. Task can do a 1 cry manip. Standard is like 5 or 6. And if you mess it up in a bad way, it can be like 7 or more. So 1, 2. Okay. So now we need to start shooting Mother Brain. We are actually doing damage to Mother Brain here. What this does is it speeds up the phase 3 where we shoot her with the rainbow beam. But once our energy gets to 7 tanks and 0, 0, the baby will detach. And if it's in a spot where Mother Brain can't hit it, that's a soft lock. So that's why I'm taking damage from Mother Brain while I'm doing the shots as well. Okay. And then what we need to do is count 10 sets of onion rings. 7, 8, 9. And on the 10th set of onion rings, we want the baby to be over here, kind of in the middle of the screen on the right wall. Because after the 10th set, it's supposed to detach from Samus and then fly off screen and then come back on screen. And the closer it is to the spot where it needs to fly off screen, the shorter that version of the cutscene is. So that's why I run over there and move it over to the right side of the screen. I lost 100% record to messing that up once. And then we did just enough shots to optimize phase 3 where you just do 1 shot. You can actually, you can do enough shots so that you can do 0 shots on phase 3, but it's slower. So we want just 1 shot on Mother Brain 3. Okay, now I'm super, super nervous here because the escape is a place where I have thrown lots of runs that would have otherwise been PBs or records. 2 rooms in specific. 3 rooms, actually. So this room, this strat is pretty hard to do. We call it Blue Bomber. You do a mock ball, speed ball, jump up there. I didn't do the super aggressive version because I was just sick of this and just wanted to be done. So I lost like 10 frames or 15 frames there. This room, if you miss this moonfall, that's really bad. Or if you accidentally morph or otherwise break spin during these wall jumps, that is also really bad. So I took those kind of slow. I always shoot twice here because I bonked that door leaving, which is really, really bad. I lost PBs to that. You need to do the Shine Spark up the shaft in the correct spot so you don't bonk. You want to make sure you don't bonk jumping up through that door, which is another thing that I've done. And then parlor platforming is really hard, and I've fallen here a lot. So you're going to see here, I stopped for a second at the top. The reason for that is I'm actually waiting for what is the most common steam pattern so that we take damage from that steam. Because that way we get full, not full, but the correct amount of run speed to be able to do a space jump over this mound and go through this door. In the 3215, I got a really uncommon steam pattern that actually cost us the record. So it was nice that we got that steam pattern. Unfortunately, we didn't get iframes coming out of this door, which would be better. And so I was really worried that we were going to get the bad steam pattern here. Ideally, you get hit by a steam right here. That didn't happen until after we passed. And that's actually really bad. This is the exact steam pattern that I was hoping I wouldn't get. Because if you don't time your short charge or space jump, screw attack space jump here, you're going to get hit by steam again right here. So you have to jump there or you'll get hit by steam and reset your run speed. Then you got to space jump again here and hit the ship. So that was the run. I couldn't see my time, so I like take a second to look. I'm like, what was the time? And I'm like, my hand is like shaking as I'm like trying to like click to like change the thing to like see my splits. And then I'll change the audio here so that you guys can hear. Can I? Yeah, I can do this. So I just start laughing. I was just so ready. I was just so ready to be done with this category. And it's not even that I wasn't enjoying it. Life has been a lot lately. It's been a lot, and I've just been ready to be done with this category. I need a little bit of a break from the speedrun, like world record, hard PB grind. Like I just need a little bit of a break. So I was getting pretty annoyed, and I was just ready to be done. So, you know, I wouldn't say I'm extremely happy with this result. I am happy, obviously. It's world record. Like, I'm happy about that. This is not anywhere near my top runs. This is one of my less favorite PBs. But it's enough for me to move on for now. I can't say whether I'll ever grind GT Classic again. I mean, it's not a low possibility, but there's a lot of other stuff that I'd rather do. So, so yeah, that's the run. You know, of course, people are going to ask what's next. So I already kind of posted this on social media, but I have a local speedrun friends event coming up in September that I am severely behind on getting ready for. So I need to put some focus and energy into getting ready for that. I also need to keep streaming because I need to keep the platform growing and keep the, you know, the financial benefits coming in from that. So even though it will probably actually be kind of detrimental to it, as compared to if I were to just jump into any percent or something, for example. Late last year and early this year, I did a marathon called Zenithon, and there's a bunch of incentives that people contributed towards that I still have to deliver on. So I think what I'm going to do is, for the next few weeks, I'm just going to lean hard into delivering those. Take kind of a break from the speedrun, like super hardcore grind. Just get some casual content in. Like, I know that there's a lot of people that aren't going to be as interested in that, and that's okay. But I'm just going to try and get those deliverables delivered. And then I'm going to focus on Back to the Basement, which is my event next month. And then after Back to the Basement, I will decide what project I want to tackle next. I'm not going to tell you guys exactly what that is. I will say feelings change, so don't read into this too much. It's more likely that it will be low percent or any percent than it would be 100% or anything else. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. If I did decide to do any percent again, I also just want to make it clear my goal there would be to try and get my own 26 in-game time. Because I was only 53 frames or whatever short of that with my PB, my crazy record. The thing that's hard about that is I know there is no possible way, if I beat my any percent world record, there is no possible way that I'm going to like whatever that run is more than the current record. And so that makes it hard to want to go back. But we'll see. We'll see. I also need to do a hot chip reverse boss order run. And in order to do that, I need to kind of derust RBO. I will not be doing world record attempts of reverse boss order. I want to be clear on that. So anytime that I do reverse boss order over the next month or whatever, it'll be like derusting with safeties, basically, like figuring out how to run the run so that I can do it after eating a hot chip, because that's going to be really difficult. So that's what's next. There's going to be a little bit of a lull in the, Zeni speedrun world records, PBs, grind, whatever. I might do some like extension category stuff for fun. I've wanted to improve like Spore Spawn and Croc RTA and stuff like that for a long time. And that's pretty low stress compared to everything that I've done since then. So maybe we'll do stuff like that, but I'm not going to be doing any like main board, main category stuff for, I would say, at least a month, probably a little longer. So we'll see. Anyway, that was the run. That was the GT Classic World Record. I can check that box off now. I'd never done that before, so I'm happy to be able to say that I've done that. It would be really, really cool to have low ice at the same time, but I'm not gonna. It would be really bad if I tried to do that right now. I guarantee I would burn out and just hate it. So, so right now we're at 3 out of 4 NMG plus GT Classic World Record. Also, just to be clear, Zost is still running GT Classic, and I fully expect him to beat this run unless he decides not to try. If he continues trying, he's going to beat this run sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks at most. Guaranteed. So anyway, that was the run. Thank you for watching. I'm going to step away for a few minutes, run some ads on Twitch and figure out if I'm going to keep streaming. If I do, I'm going to do some X-Fusion. But yeah, we'll see. So anyway, thank you guys. Oh, links. You can't make me feel bad. Sorry. I threw so many runs just for you. I would get to the end of the run and I'd be like, oh, Lynx hasn't done it yet. I better throw this. It's just for you. That's not a lie. No way. Really, though, you're awesome, dude. And I still believe you could beat it. But I also know how freaking hard this is. It's stupid. Anyway. All right, I'm gonna BRB. And if you're watching the VOD, then this is the end of the video. So